Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory be unto Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham Rakal Kwadash. Double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone that rule well. Peace, salutations, and blessings be unto the hopeful elect, pushing this truth in sincerity throughout the four corners of the globe, in the sincere hopes of being delivered in these last days. All right, this is the brother Yakanan from the GMS England branch, back here with another video. Lord willing, it's edifying. Now, as you can see here, I have this article, and it's entitled "Oxford Academics Drank from Enslaved Woman's Skull in Dining Ritual." All right, Oxford academics drank from enslaved woman's skull in dining ritual. And this information was exposed, as you can see here, via Oxford archaeologists. All right, now it says Oxford archaeologists uncovers that academics drank from a chalice made from an enslaved woman's skull, highlighting the legacy of colonialism and racism in Britain. Okay, and here we have, another example, of Esau Edom, being exposed in these last days. All right, concerning his wickedness, concerning, the atrocities that he's committed against the Israelites, all right, being Negroes, Hispanics, and Native American Indians. And in regards to his cruelty and his violent nature as a nation of people, beginning with their elites, it's all being exposed. And obviously, first and foremost, it's being exposed through the prophets, the mouthpieces of Yahweh, Bahasham Yahweh Shai, all right, first and foremost. But you also have, Esau's own media, news outlets, so on and so forth, revealing and exposing information, okay? Now, it says, kept in a case, the special chalice accompanied formal dinners and even became a variety of tableware. A book titled "Every Monument Will Fall" exposed the origins of the cup, adorned with a silver rim and sitting on a stand. It most likely once belonged to an enslaved woman. Now, I believe later on in the article, they go on to reveal that it was a woman from the Caribbean, all right? Which you can just imagine, the kind of fate that she met, the kind of demise that she experienced. Now it says the maker of the cup, whoever he may be, has used her human remains to craft a receptacle for drinking and eating by the educated class even. It reveals the reality and legacy of colonialism and racism, though Oxford reportedly handled the situation ethically, according to the author. A disturbing reminder of how real colonialism is. So again, these are the dark, deeds and history of the nation of Esau Edom, all right, the so-called white man. Now, they were using this cup for ritualistic purposes up until 2015, okay, which is 10 years ago. So this just goes to show that it's the same devils, coming back. And that's why through the spirit, they are going to be, dealt with through the spirit and power of Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shai. judgment is going to fall upon them. All right. Now let's go right quick to Isaiah chapter 14 and verse 21. All right. Now this is Isaiah 14 and verse 21, and it reads, "Prepare slaughter for his children for the iniquity of their fathers, that they do not rise nor possess the land, nor fill the face of the world with cities." Okay? "For I will rise up against them, saith the Lord of hosts, and cut off from Babylon the name and remnant and son and nephew, saith the Lord." Okay? So it's the same spirit in these devils that are around now that was around back then. All right? In the height and during, the transatlantic slave trade. Okay? And they are still benefiting and reaping the rewards of the slaughter and the destruction of our people. And clearly, they are still in the same spirit, because it is the same individuals. Okay? And that's why, again, up until 2015, this was still a thing. And it still is a thing, amongst the nation of Edom. All right? To revel in the downfall and the conquering of our people, you Negroes, Hispanics, and Native American Indians. All right? Because in many different cultures, when you have the skull of your enemy and you drink from it, all right, when you research that, that goes back to celebrating conquering, of your enemy, all right, of your adversary. Okay? And that's exactly what they do, up until this very day. They celebrate the downfall, they celebrate the conquering of, the Israelites, you Negroes, Hispanics, and Native American Indians. Okay? And there's other things that they do, that's been brought out in the past concerning how they used to actually eat, the slaves. All right? They used to actually, kill and eat, or rather murder and eat, their slaves. Okay? We're dealing with a sick and twisted, individual when we're talking about the nation of Esau, Edom. All right? And that's why, they are, the devil that the Bible speaks of, man. Okay? As it's written in Job chapter 9 and verse 24, "The earth is given into the hand of the wicked, and he covereth the faces of the judges thereof." Right? This world, this kingdom has been given into the hand of the wicked. Okay? And who are the wicked? All right? Esau, Edom. You so-called white people, you are the wicked that the Bible speaks of. And that's why your deeds are wicked. That's why the things that you do upon the earth are synonymous with wickedness and evil and bloodshed. Okay? As it tells us in Psalms, the 73rd chapter, violence covereth them as a garment. Okay? Who else could that be talking about but Esau, Edom? Now let's go back to this article right quick. It says he could easily trace the succession of British owners as it was a collectible item. However, the British erased the rightful owner of the human body part due to the dehumanization and destruction driving colonialism, Hicks described. Prominent Britons even memorialized themselves, attaching their identities to the object as they bought it. Hicks couldn't find any record concerning its rightful identity. Most likely it belonged to an enslaved woman in the Caribbean who lived 225 years ago, which 225 years ago is not a long time at all, okay? You gotta really think, 200 years ago, our people were being, brutalized in unspeakable ways. All right? You can watch that film, Goodbye, Uncle Tom. That's a good film to watch concerning, having a glimpse as to what our people went through during the transatlantic slavery. All right? which is, again, a mere glimpse. You ain't never gonna be able to depict on, via a movie, the true hell and the true pain, that our people encountered, during, the transatlantic slave trade. Okay. Now it says, Hicks speculates, according to The Guardian, that the original seller, Bernard Smith, a lawyer and Oxford graduate, he probably received the chalice made from a human skull as a gift from his father, who served in the Royal Navy in the Caribbean. All right, so you can just imagine what kind of possessions, I don't know if I can use the word memorabilia, that these devils that we see in front of us actually have, stored away in their attics, in their possession. You can just imagine the kind of things that they have that's been passed down onto them. But yet still, in your face, they want to go on like, everything is cool. They want to go on like, racism ain't a thing, when they actually have these things in their possession. And they pass it around, amongst themselves. They sell it. They probably have, private auctions and stuff of that nature. Okay, these things exist. All right? So all of these things, are coming out. All of these things are being exposed. All right, and it tells us in Jeremiah 49:10, that the Lord is going to make Esau bare, and he shall not be able to hide himself. All right, that's clearly happening. And the scriptures also speak about a shameful, let me get that, a shameful spewing. It's in caps. Let me just type in spewing. All right, so this is Habakkuk chapter 2. We'll get straight to the point in verse 16. And it reads, Thou art filled with shame for glory. All right, and that's that shame that's coming down, upon these devils. All right, because all of their atrocities, all of their wickedness, all of their dark deeds are being brought to light through the spirit and power of Yahweh Hashem Yahweh Shai. So thou art filled with shame for glory. Drink thou also, and let thy foreskin be uncovered. The cup of the Lord's right hand shall be turned unto thee, and shameful spewing shall be on thy glory. All right, so currently there's a shameful spewing upon the glory of the wicked elites of Esau Edom and the whole nation and house of Esau Edom upon the earth. There's a shameful spewing that they can't get rid of. Okay, they've been tainted, all right, with this shameful spewing because of their wicked deeds. All right, the scriptures speak about how, let me get it right quick, concerning the bloody man. All right, Esau is known as a bloody man, the wicked. So this is Psalms, the 5th chapter and the 6th verse. It says, Thou shalt destroy them that speak leasing, meaning lies. It says, the Lord will abhor the bloody and deceitful man. All right, the bloody and deceitful man. All right, the nation of Esau Edom, they're known as bloody and deceitful men. Okay, that's what they embody. These are their traits. Okay, you know how people have traits, you have identifying marks of your character. Well, one of the identifying marks, of an Edomite, of the wicked, is being bloody, a lover of violence, and being deceitful, being a liar. These are the traits that make up the nation of Esau Edom. Okay, terrible and abominable traits to have. All right, but this is their lot, and they're fulfilling their purpose upon the earth. Okay, the scriptures tell us that they are vessels of wrath that are fitted to destruction. Okay, so they were designed in this way. Okay, they were built to do what they're doing upon the earth. They were built to fulfill the deeds of the left-hand side. Okay, They were built to do what they were made to do. So ultimately, you can't really be angry, all right, because we know what it is. You know, they're fulfilling their lot. They represent the left-hand side. They are the physical counterpart of the spiritual demon Satan upon the earth, walking and roaming around. You know? So again, thou shalt destroy them that speak leasing. The Lord will abhor the bloody and deceitful man. And in the NLT it says, you will destroy those that tell lies. The Lord detests murderers and deceivers. And what does it tell us in John 10:10? You know, the thief cometh but to steal, to kill, and to destroy. All right, roughly paraphrase. And that's all they're about, is murdering and destroying, taking away life. That's why the scriptures tell us again, you know, that he is as death and cannot be satisfied. All right, these are the traits of Esau Edom, you know, the wicked that the Bible speaks of, man. Okay, so they're not going to get away. You know, the Lord, Yahweh Shem Yahushai, all right, is going to judge, you know, these Edomites in these last days, man. All right, the Lord is going to judge these Edomites in these last days. I'm going to cut it off there. Lord willing, this lesson has been edifying. And until the next time, I'll say shalom.